Welcome back to a bevy of bloods for round 16 of the 2023 AFL season. Melbourne-based superfan Matt joins the potty again as Noddy and Matt dissect the heartbreaking draw against the Cats. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods. G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. I'm Noddy and I'm joined by Matt again. Welcome back, mate.
Oh, fantastic to be here again. Thanks, Noddy, for having me back on.
Our pleasure as always. Just before we kick off, if you enjoy the podcast and want to show your support, please make sure to follow us on social media and wherever you're listening to your podcasts. We really do appreciate it and it helps us. Thank you. Okay, let's get stuck into the game details. Last Friday night, our Sydney Swans drew with the Geelong Cats for the first time ever, I believe, with a final score of 6-18-54 to 7-12-54. All right, Matt. First impressions, what did you think of that?
Gee whiz, where do we start? It's a tricky one, isn't it, Noddy?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those games where it's equally valid to have a glass half empty as it is to have a glass half full perspective. But I think it's a lot healthier for the mental health, for the psychology, to actually have a glass half full perspective, which is what I've sort of taken into the week. I'm not sure about you, Noddy. I know it was pretty rough there at the game, seeing it live, and just the frustration of all of the missed attempts. I was losing it at home as well, I've got to say. I did yell and probably wake up the baby at one point.
Oh, mate, I woke up my inner baby. It was, it was just extremely frustrating. Obviously, I think we all know it. I think the club knows it. But it's funny, you go from, having a pretty mixed season with a lot of injuries, and then you have this record-breaking win, and then we're talking about mental hoodoo. The Cats have obviously had our measure for the past two games, and we owed them a big one. But yeah, maybe drawing even now that the dust has settled is the win we were seeking.
Yeah,
it's not a big loss. It's not a close win. It's not a lucky win like maybe the North game was, but maybe that's what we needed.
I think so. I think we had a big psychological hurdle that we had to overcome against Geelong.
Yeah.
Those two spankings, and obviously I think before the grand final effort, we actually had a reasonable record against Geelong. It's not really one of our bogey teams, but I think that just really did affect us mentally, and we took that into that rematch. Obviously, we were undermanned at Cardinia Park, so we're kind of like almost set up to fail. They were unfurling the premiership flag as well. Yeah. They smelt blood and they just went for us, and you could tell we just sort of wilted a bit under that psychological pressure. But what I was really proud of this week was that we came in with a very clear game plan. We came in with strong effort, and we're very physical. We didn't get bullied, but we were actually very clean with our ball movement, particularly in the first half as well. It did help that we were pretty much close to full strength. Obviously, we've got still a couple of outs that we could probably put into that first side, or two or three, namely sort of, McCartan, Tommy McCartan, Buddy potentially as well, although our young forwards are doing reasonably well at the moment. Maybe Laddams as well, although Hickey, I think, had a pretty good game besides those two absolute howlers in front of goal.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm taking the positives out of this because, as you said, we had that monkey on our back, and I think we really did deserve to win. So we can sort of say, listen, we're good enough to beat the Cats again. We probably still were a bit affected in front of goal by that hurdle. And maybe there were some other factors that just came into play. But it was a bizarre sort of evening because we really did do so much well. And, as I said, our game plan was very effective. Obviously, the Cats in the second half were able to, I guess, put things back in their favour a bit through manning up better and less uncontested possessions, and we weren't able to take as many inside 50 marks in that second half. But in that first half, we were on sort of record pace. Like it was almost like the Eagles game in terms of marks inside 50, but we just weren't able to capitalise.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you, mate. I'm looking at the breakdown, the quarter by quarter, and although we won that first one, when you put it together with the second, the game should have been over really at half time. You know, we kicked 12 behinds for the half, and then we go into the second half, and then, as you said, they tidy up, they tighten up, and they went on and actually won the second half, and obviously it equated to the draw, but. Yeah, I don't know, mate. It's just you just can't help but think it's just that one of those ones where even though it's like we very quickly forgot the 170 to 80 points that we owed them over the past two games, and when it's within reach to beat them, you know, that's kind of what you hold on to. But I think for all the reasons you've said, I think it really is. It's a better position for mental health, if anything else, to take that positive spin and say, look. You know, we played really well. Yeah, it was unlucky. We didn't kick straight. We could have won, but look, at least we drew.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and I think mental health is actually a serious thing to talk about in relation to following the Swans, because probably a lot of teams, but I think particularly this year, it's been a rough ride, and it's been kind of excruciating. And if following your sporting team is one of your main hobbies, it's not a great outlet, to be honest.
So, and for us, we're so used to success, you know, really over a sustained period. And, you know, obviously we've lost a few grand finals, but, you know, we're consistently, you know, we're up in the finals. You know, I think Horse has, been out 2 of his 13 or 14 years or whatever it is, 13, I think. But so, you know, when you're used to sort of performing at a certain level, and then, you know, you're dealt a pretty poor hand with injuries and a few close losses go against you. And all of a sudden, our fate is out of our hands, and it's really sort of an unnerving feeling. And we're probably going to get into that later on when we look at the road ahead. But because it's going to be all maths from here. But
that's right.
But mate, before that, speaking of maths, let's get on to the good, the bad, and the stats. So talk us through it, mate. What did you pull out of that?
Well, as I was saying, it was really that efficiency going forward. I mean, I wouldn't say goal efficiency, but our ball movement was fantastic. So we came in with a really clear plan to move the ball quickly, to handball a lot, to get a lot of run and carry going through handball chains, and then also spreading at times the ball across the ground to open up the space when we're going into forward 50. So we're really able to sort of spread the Geelong defence. They didn't know where to stand because I think they like to zone off quite a lot. And we were able to sort of lower our eyes, which meant often that we were kind of getting relatively shallow entries. So that might have contributed to some extent to our lack of accuracy in front of goals, because we're taking quite a few shots from around that 40 to 50 metre mark. But then obviously those shocking ones that were 10, 15 metres out that we missed as well. But we're actually, like, our scoring efficiency or our shot efficiency once we got into 50 was 64%. And to put that into perspective, it's normally 49%. So that's our average for the year, 49%. So we were actually getting a shot on goal 64% of the time that we got into inside 50. And I think against the Eagles last week, it was actually only 65%, 1% better. So we were doing so much right, but just butchering it in front of goal.
Just the reward, just not getting the reward for effort.
That's
really.
right.
And how about Heaney, before we carry on with some of these other points? Heaney hit both behind posts. We're talking in the crowd going, that's got to be a record. Like in the same game, the same player hits both outside posts before anything. In fact, he went on to, he missed everything, didn't he?
He missed everything. I think he had five shots on goal and didn't score. Didn't score a goal. He scored 1 point.
0-1, yeah, at the lucky point, the lucky last.
Yeah, that gave us the draw. But,
well, thanks, Heat. We love you.
Like, I mean, I don't want to sort of stick the boot into Heaney, but
not at all.
He has to be better than that. But he actually, aside from his goal kicking, I thought he got involved quite a lot. And he was more of an attacking threat, but he really does need to clean up that goal kicking. And it's hard to really identify what's going wrong there, because it looks like he has a routine. You know, he looks like he takes a similar amount of steps. He settles himself takes a deep breath, all of that sort of stuff. But it's almost like when he kicks, he just rotates too much at times in the hips, and or maybe he's not facing centrally enough towards the big sticks, so he's sort of a bit tilted when he's kicking. But
so I mean, there's a bit of confidence really about him, about his play in general.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, I love the mechanics that you've got. You've really dug deep there, and I like that. And who knows, maybe he'll sort of do a bit of extra stretching and straighten up and go. Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Well, surely he's got a strong core. I mean, look at his rig. So
he's got like a 12-pack. So
he does.
He's putting us to shame. But a lovely bloke. And, certainly not trying to shit-can anyone here, because we're all hurting and we know the players are hurting. But Definitely. It was just one of those quirks I thought was worth calling out. But, we were looking strong in the air. We had some, as you're saying, shallow entries. Some, that while we're on Heaney, that chip of Heaney's to, I think it was Logan, wasn't it? That was a pretty nice set piece. And But,
there's some lovely spotting up in the inside 50. Often we have multiple marks inside 50 in one chain. So we were finding space, and our kicking, like that final kick into the inside 50, was actually quality. It was really good.
Which is, obviously we'll talk about it as well, but Chad being the laid out, we know he's sort of been a little bit up and down with his kicking efficiency over the journey, but in recent weeks, he's sort of him and Goulden and Campbell and even more recently, Beef, Sheldrick have really been giving good service, and I think and you spoke to that already, but I don't know, like, It was nerve-wracking going in, thinking, how are we going to actually score points against these guys? And then to see it happen as well as it did in the first half, it was quite it was a bit of a relief, to be honest. But
that we could do it. It's just that final kick, and the funny thing is, like, we had 20 inside 50 marks for the match, and our average for the season is 11. Geelong, so that was obviously a massive, that's double on our side, and then Geelong, we kept them to 11 inside 50 marks for the match, and they average around 15. So defensively, we're pretty strong as well.
I mean, I thought we did very well there, and the ongoing talk of who holds if and when Tommy McCartan comes back in, that's going to be obviously the big talking point, and I think we'll touch on that as well. But,
yes,
I thought Melly did well. Like kept Tomahawk reasonably quiet in a pretty ugly game of footy in totality. But I think he's still looking really good there as that key lockdown tall.
Yes. Yeah, I like him. I like the work he's doing. He's very strong in the body, good size. He's around 100 kegs. I think he's like 193 or 194 centimetres, right?
Yeah, that's it.
But if he can, if he can play on someone like Tomahawk and not be thrown around like the typical defender, it shows that he's got a bit of strength there. And I think he's actually a bit quicker than people give him credit for, especially running in straight lines.
Totally.
He's got a little bit of dash. So, I'm liking what Lewis is doing at the moment.
Awesome. Have you got any more points there?
Like we have spoken a bit about the goal kicking accuracy, and there are a few egregious misses there, like namely that first Hickey one.
The first Hickey one was...
It was like it was at the top of the goal square, essentially. Like,
I don't know how hard it is to miss from there. Like, how hard do you have to... I mean, I don't know what's going on there. That had to be mental.
He poked at it.
Poked it.
Yeah, he poked it. And he's actually normally a lovely kick, so that is just like a psychological thing that he decided to... He was worried about over-kicking it, and he's just poked at it. Or he's just gotten a bit stiff. But... our shot accuracy that game was the worst of any side this season. They actually mentioned that at the end of the game.
Yep.
So that's bad. That's the bad. I think, the good is the inside 50 efficiency, shots on goal, and marks inside 50 ball movement. But the bad is just the goal kicking.
Yeah. It really is the key stat. I mean, for all the good areas, the good effort of the game, and, you can draw them out, but really the key talking point here is the accuracy and inaccuracy, but bad. So it was the worst. It was the worst of any team this year. Is that right?
It was the worst of any team this year. That didn't make me feel good. I think it was the worst of any team this year that has had over 25 shots on goal in a match. So there might have been some worse, But yeah, I don't know if the wind was playing a part at all. You were there at the ground, right? What was the wind doing?
It didn't. I mean, it was a little bit blustery, but it wasn't. So you didn't walk in and go, "Jesus, it's really windy in here."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit chilly. It wasn't cold. Wasn't too windy. I didn't think. I mean, I don't know. Was that a talking point on the broadcast?
Tui mentioned that. So Zach Tui at the end of the game, he was interviewed. And because obviously the Cats also missed a few shots in the second half.
Yeah.
They kicked, what was it?
In the second half?
Two goals,
They were
8 or something?
Yeah, no, 2-4 in the third and 1-4 in the fourth.
Yeah.
So, 3-8, yeah.
Yeah, 3-8. So they struggled a bit as well. And maybe it wasn't always affecting the kicks because, with those swirly winds, they can be a bit unpredictable. But he did specifically mention that the conditions were a bit tricky and that mightn't have been clear from watching it on TV.
I've got a conspiracy here, if I just on the fly.
Go for it.
So how many consecutive games did that Irish legend, was it 200?
Was that Jimmy Steins?
No, Tui. So he's not
Tui.
quite Steins yet, but he's getting there. How many games is it now? 200 and...
Oh, jeez, I don't know. But
it's a lot. It's a lot, right? So let's just say he kind of knows how Chris Scott works. Yeah. And Chris Scott, for all his pros, and I'm not quite sure where they are, but I'm sure they're there. He has this way of really. He's nowhere near as humble and as graceful as Horse. I think just generally. Yeah. And I think that Tui is the kind of guy who I mean, look, he's speaking from the heart. I get that he played, but it fed perfectly into Chris Scott's narrative. Oh, it was an ugly game. And he's got this way of sort of negging the opposition.
Yes.
Like, it was a draw and, they kicked badly. Oh, but so did we. And it was blustery or something,
He didn't give us much credit, did he?
No, he has this way of really just negging opposition teams, and that's good on him. But so I feel like Tui saying, it's really really windy out there, sort of helped that claim have some legitimacy or whatever.
Just give him some ammunition.
Yeah, and he knows that because of how many consecutive games he's played, and surely, obviously the connection with the coach there after so long. But anyway, that's my weak conspiracy for the episode. It's not much. It's certainly not Deflategate like the grand final.
No. That was next level. That conspiracy theory.
That was truly bonkers. I'm willing to admit that. But
the intellectual energy that went into it was actually very impressive.
Thank you. All right, mate. Well, all right. So if that's us for the good, the bad, and the stats, we're going to move on to favourite moments and missed chances. Obviously, we don't need to touch on the missed chances because there were about 18 of them. But, mate, what were your favourite moments of the game?
Well, to be honest, the game didn't have a lot of highlights in the sense of, really great goals or marks. It probably was a little bit of a scrappy game overall. And probably not great for the neutral, although it was a bit of an arm wrestle, obviously. So it would have been kind of exciting from that perspective, and draws are always relatively exciting anyway for the neutral. Probably too exciting for us, to be fair. But yeah, like coming back to our ball movement in the first quarter and the second quarter, I think that was excellent. And some of the key players involved in that were Goulden, Blakey, McInerney and Florent. They were kind of everywhere in that first quarter. And I just want to touch on Goulden. We'll talk about him a bit more later when we go through the votes, but he was working so hard. He had a really strong contested game, which I think his contested game's improving all the time, and he's very physical for his size, but he was very strong in the contest. His kicking skills are probably a little bit down on what they would normally be. His efficiency was a bit down, probably because he was getting a lot of contested ball. But he just worked so hard linking some of that transition, but also working hard back into defence. I don't know if you remember that big leap he did right in the D50 around the goal square.
Oh my God, that was huge.
Yeah. So I was like, how did he get down there? Wasn't he just up in the forward line a second ago? Yeah. And I was like, is there anything this man can't do?
Yeah. Steve-O has pointed out his work rate previously, and like, his up and down, his two-way running is just like next level. Yeah, because as you say, like, 30 seconds prior, he's working hard to exit, and then or vice versa, you know. And so it's quite amazing to watch, isn't it? Really.
It's amazing, yeah. And I think that'll come out in the stats that he actually had quite a few rebound 50s as well as inside 50s. So he was literally everywhere. And yeah, some of those kicks inside 50 from the players I mentioned, actually McInerney, none of them led to a goal, but there was this sort of 5-minute patch in that first quarter where he had, I think, 3 spot-ups inside 50, beautiful kicks, low darts to leading forwards. And yeah, it was just a shame that they couldn't finish off the good work. But I think he had 10 possessions in the first quarter. So I think, that was good to see, because we've been a little bit, like critical, I guess, of Juzzy at times this year. But I feel like he's coming back to the Juzzy we know with his run and carry. And I think he looked like he was actually playing a bit forward. Did you notice that?
Yeah, we got that vibe. Yeah, we got that vibe, yeah. And maybe even over like the past couple of weeks as well, but maybe that's just to do with he's clearly got a bit of confidence and swagger back. So I don't know, maybe he's just a bit, maybe he was injured, I don't know, but he seems to be moving better and yeah, certainly impacting a bit more forward.
Yeah, that's right. And I think he might have been playing on the half-forward flank or something, because it seemed that Goulden and Campbell were sort of on the wings a fair bit. So that means that he might have been sort of, just working a bit around that forward 50 area. Because he's a good kick. So if he's, coming to set up some of those shots on goal, I think that's an advantage for us to have him playing forward.
I agree, and maybe that's where he carves out his niche, because he's always had good footy IQ. I think that's why he was picked up. Work rate, like running ability and footy IQ, and we know that he can kick a sneaky goal. So if he's feeding inside 50, and then there's an opportunity to get second effort or whatever and come through and have a crack, then he's the kind of player we really want to be doing that when they're up and about. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, that was good.
There was a good goal by Papley in the second quarter, the snap right at the start of the second quarter. And that was, again, resulting from Goulden's work rate and his pressure on the wing. He put this really strong tackle on De Koning. But he just sort of willed the ball forward and just kept, repeat efforts on that wing, and then, just getting the ball inside 50 through that effort. I think also Amadi was involved in that build-up as well. But it was just nice to see Papley get it on the end of one, because he almost scored a beautiful goal in that first quarter when he had that left foot snap from that stoppage, and the ball just bounced the wrong way. So that was nice. What about you? Did you notice anything that you'd sort of liked on the night in terms of highlights?
Yeah, I think, and you might have touched on him already, but and we will in the next section for sure. But Cannon Campbell's goals. He's just got such a beautiful kick. I mean, we're going to say this every week for like 10 years, hopefully, but all going well. Don't put the mic on.
That's right.
The mic on. But yeah, his goals in the first and last quarters. Really, it was sort of it was the first goal, and then that secondly, certainly his second goal, that was one that really brought us back into the game to put us in a position to win. So that was really, really important and equally as impressive as the first one. But, I mean, most of his long-range goals are supremely impressive. But,
That's
right. I don't know. He's just looking I think he's taking a step up each week. And really, like as you've already said, like Goulden and Campbell on the wings I think looks good, because if we can get those guys, delivering the quality of ball that they can to these young agile forwards, or I think that's it. I think that's the key to us and our short-term future. And obviously our next premiership, hopeful, our target, going for another flag. But
it's a point of difference potentially for us, isn't it, to have two elite kicks that are so young that can just develop together and they can play. Like, I'm not sure where Cannon's going to play his best footy, whether it will be on the wing or whether he can at some point go a bit more inside. But I'm very happy with him on the wing at the moment, and he was clutch in those moments, wasn't he? Particularly that last one, because all of the pressure would have been on him and the weight of expectation after missing so many goals throughout the night. And his technique is beautiful. And I think Horse actually mentioned him in the post-match presser too. He said, listen, you've just got to be like Braden and just go back and execute. And and that's what he did. And, he's one of the youngest players, so credit to him.
Do what Braden would do.
That's it.
Kick the goal.
Maybe he can become our goal-kicking coach. Well, he's been a bit wasted down back, really, if he's one of our better kicks at goal, isn't he?
At goal, yeah. I mean, and, he's, in the position of, where he had been playing. Obviously, recently he's moved up and into the wing and onto the wing, sorry. But, down back, he's having to do a lot of hack kicks, rush kicks, and, a lot of roosts, and some of those can go out in the full. So you've got this beautiful kick, and it's sort of wasted given the area of the field that he's been playing. I think we're really starting to. We know it's there. We knew it was there, but we're seeing more of it, and I think that and the consistency is there, and that's pleasing to see, I think. But exciting times, obviously.
Definitely.
Otherwise, favourite moments. Look, I don't know.
Some of Gus's work was good.
Yeah, definitely. The beef, like he's just looking great, isn't he? And he's the player that I think a lot of Swans fans have been waiting for him to come up and show what we saw, and he's doing it, and I think we've got him as a talking point in a little bit, so we won't steal all that. Further down. So, all right, mate. Well, why don't we move on to the best on ground? So, moving on to the Bob Medal, which is the bevy of bloods equivalent of the Bob Skilton Medal. We give 3, 2, 1 points to the best Swans players on the ground, and this week they win a session with Plugger.
Oh gosh, we need Plugger back out of hibernation, don't we, to help us with our goal kicking? He was our goal kicking. Not coach, but he was sort of like a consultant for a while, wasn't he?
I think he was, yeah. And it was definitely after he lost all that weight, because you had to sort of double take and go, oh, that's Plugger.
That's right.
He's looking bloody
amazing. He looks so different, doesn't he? It's actually disconcerting for me, who grew up with him, watching him as a child, and him just brutalising our defenders mainly, because when he was playing with St Kilda, he would invariably scored 10 goals against us every match. He was a man-mountain, and so to see him sort of a shadow of his, even though he's healthier, I guess, it just sort of a bit disconcerting, I've got to say.
Definitely. So let's hopefully, either way, in whatever shape he's in, get over to Moore Park and help these young bloods with their accuracy. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, I should get on to the 3, 2, 1. But in 3 points this week is Errol Gordon doing his amazing things. In 2, we've got Lizard, Nick Blakey. And in 1, we've got Braden Cannon Campbell. So, mate, I think they're very deserved. And you want to kick us off with Gordon?
Yeah. Well, Errol, what more can you say? We've already sort of waxed lyrical a bit about him already today. So we can maybe just delve a little bit more into some of his stats. He had 26 disposals. Now, his efficiency was a bit down. It was 42%. But as I was saying, I think that is because he was doing a lot of work in tight. And he was just willing the ball forward. And sometimes I don't actually read too much into the efficiency stuff, because it can be a little bit one-dimensional at times. It's like, the meters gain that he's getting, which actually is reflected in the fact that he had 698, which I think was second for the match. So he was one of the main people getting the ball forward for us. And you just want it in his hands. He's such a great user of the ball. He's creative. He's mature. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He never seems flustered. But, interestingly, he had 12 contested possessions out of his 26. So I think there's a really nice balance in his game at the moment. And his versatility is exceptional. That he can go inside. He can go on the wing. I don't know how many centre bounce attendances he had, but I don't think he had as many. I can have a look. What did you notice about him?
Oh, no, I'm just remembering from last week he had 32 touches and 22 of them were kicks, and he certainly didn't have that many contested possessions. So I think the point of that he was going through the middle a bit more is really clear in that contrast from week to week. But Yeah, look, mate, I'm happy to run with your points there.
We only had one centre bounce attendance, so
Oh, really? Okay.
he was, I think, mainly playing, but he playing mainly on the wing, at least at the centre bounces. Although there weren't many centre bounces, were there? Because there were
That's
so
right.
few goals
Yeah.
kicked. But he had 10 ground ball gets, which was second for the match, and 6 inside 50s, equal game high, 7 score involvements, and 1 goal assist. And all that was missing really was some goals himself. I think he missed a couple.
He
hit
missed
the
that
post.
first one. Yeah. And then a poster, was it?
Yeah, that first one I think was. Oh no, I'm not sure it was the first or the second one, but it was also in the first quarter when he had that little sort of snap out of a stoppage or out of a contest, and it sort of was a low ball and hit the post, and then he had that other one which he sort of pushed to the right across goal.
Oh, okay, I was thinking
about
the 40
out.
Yeah, I mean, God, add 2 goals to that, and that was that's surely a Brownlow game.
We had 4 posters too. We didn't mention that before, but we actually had 4 posters.
Are you counting the? Oh, you're talking about
that team. We hit the post 4 times.
So when you say posters, are you just talking about the two big ones, or are you talking about any?
Oh, no, I didn't mean the Heaney ones.
Yeah, okay.
But
so
they
outside of
6.
that, yeah, okay.
Add those 2 and that's 6. But
that's a lot.
It's a lot. Like even Amadi's shot, and I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but Amadi's kick at goal was probably the best all night. Outside 50, beautiful distance on it, hit the post about halfway up, and I think it just sort of drifted a bit to the right, looked like it was going through, and then hit the post. So we were a bit unlucky. I think Fox's one was just, a bit of an abomination, to be honest. But I can sort of understand why it happened.
That's probably the one we may have honed in on for a missed chance. I mean, that was the gutting one. But yeah, I mean, I love Foxy, and I can't speak a bad word against him. But
no, I love him too.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to Blakey. I think we've got all the points there for Goulden. So how did Lizard's game pan out in terms of stats?
Yeah, so he actually had a game high 28 disposals, although 7 of them were kick-ins, so that sort of beefed up his stats or enhanced his stats a bit. But as always, he's pretty efficient with the ball, so his disposal efficiency was 76%. That was overall disposal efficiency, but his kicking efficiency was 71, so that's pretty good. He had 3 95 metres gained, 7 intercept possessions, which was third for the match, both teams. Also had 4 inside 50s and 5 score involvements and 10 1%ers. And so he was doing everything that we expect of the Lizard, slithering around as Heaney said the other week. But he was kind of, he just creates, doesn't he? He's got a great energy about him. He's good in the air. He took a couple of nice marks. He took a really important one in the last quarter there when we're sort of locking the ball into our 50 in the last quarter. But he was really big in that first quarter. He was really helping with that link play, that transition play. And it seems like he actually spends quite a lot of time outside the D50 when we're in attacking phases, right? Like he really does inject himself into the centre of the ground, and you just love seeing him sprinting through the middle of the ground or, bringing the ball inside 50 with his little beautiful spot up kick. So, what did you make of his game, seeing it there live?
Oh, just that, mate. Like I think, and the point, your point of how active he is forward from from forward to the centre square. If Errol's got 6 inside 50s and Lizard's got 4, that just shows you, as you said, he's an attacking threat, but with defensive capabilities. So, mate, he was just that bump that he got hit with Duncan, that looked potentially game ending, but obviously played out the game. And I don't know if there's a little bit of I don't think there was a head check there. We didn't see anything from the game, but maybe you saw that or heard that on the broadcast. But I don't know. I don't think he was listed as injured after the game, so hopefully don't have to watch that one. But there's a couple of segments there where he was going forward and doing that attack, and getting pinged but getting rid of the ball, And graciously, the number 15 umpire, who I was telling you offline, I've developed an unhealthy vendetta against. He said, play on. It was a correct handball, so thanks. And then he played on and then got tackled. But, you've got to...
by Stewart, that was a bone-crunching tackle, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's that play there. But, I mean, I'm happy with that sort of stuff because you're pushing and you're daring and you're going forward and that really is his MO. And, you're not gonna pull all of them off. But, when they do... it's usually pretty mouth-watering.
For sure.
And to our advantage. So, yeah. But 10-1 percenters is very pleasing, isn't it?
10-1 percenters, I think
that's pretty high.
A lot of those were spoils. I think about 8 of those were spoils.
Yeah.
So, he does everything. He's, defensively minded. He's attacking minded. So he's got a really good balance to his game. And he always puts his body on the line, doesn't he? It's almost not a true Lizard game if he's not getting bashed around a bit. Whether it's into the goal post or point post or whatever it was against Brisbane or by a bigger body, which tends to be pretty much 95% of the league has a bigger body than him, even though he's tall.
Totally, in his torso and shoulders. But he's kind of like, I'm not going to say he's like Danger where he makes the game about himself because he's always getting injured. But the amount of effort, he's so hard at it. He's having these incidents and they're potentially, they're hard enough to put him out for, a stint. But he doesn't make it about himself. He either plays on or goes off if he's legitimately injured. Whereas Paddy, it's like, he's collapsed lung and had to drive home, and yet he goes on and plays fine. I didn't see a single. There was nothing there to suggest that he'd collapsed a lung and cracked a rib. Right, so I'm thinking this is all just.
Well, here's a conspiracy theory.
Go
regarding Danger. Apparently, the story was that he had to wait while being ramped. He was ramped in the ambulance, waiting to be admitted to the hospital. Where were they playing that match? I'm not sure which state it was. I think it was in South Australia, right?
Yeah, I think it was the Port game. I think.
Yeah. That was probably just a story that he put on his, his Instagram or something.
He had to get ramped. What does that even mean?
It means like there wasn't enough room in the emergency department in the hospital. Like they didn't have enough beds. So I think he was just waiting in an ambulance or on a bed outside the hospital, waiting to get in for hours, apparently.
Right.
Probably didn't happen. Probably just a little narrative he made up to make himself.
I feel like they would have rushed Mr. Dangerfield through. But,
well, that's, I think, the probably the Premier was like, oh, no, we can't favour an AFL footballer because, then everyone will crack the shit, so...
That's right. I don't know if the Premier is a Port fan or not, but I
think he is.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's definitely the year to be a Port fan.
Or it might be Adelaide, I'm not sure.
SA Premier.
Yeah.
50-50. Anyway, so we may as well move on back on to the player got 1 point for the game, and that was obviously Campbell. So we've touched on him already, but let's go through his numbers again, mate.
Yeah, Campbell. I mean, in a match that had only 6 goals for us, he scored a third of them. He scored 2, along with Logan. So shout out to Logan as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, 2 goals, and as we said, beautiful. He kicked 2 too, so he could have had more as well. But those 2 that he did kick just sort of demonstrate that he's very reliable in front of goal. He's got a really good technique. He had 14 disposals at 85%, so that's what you like to see. Pushing anything above 80 is excellent. And 3 marks inside 50. So he was working really hard forward of centre. 324 metres gained. So similar to Blakey there in the metres gained. 4 tackles. So working defensively as well. 5 1%ers. 9, and I think he was our game high for score involvements. So he had 9 score involvements and an assist to go with his 2 goals. So even though he only had 14 disposals, I think his impact, particularly his scoreboard impact, was really high in this game. And he's just really going from strength to strength, isn't he?
Absolutely, mate. And at the ground, you just see him. He's really he just looks dangerous, and he looks fast as well.
Yeah.
Like obviously we've spoken about his kicking, but his movement around the ground and his ability to actually beat players is looking better and better. So
it's
very exciting,
isn't he?
Definitely, and maybe that's why there's that hope that he can transition to an inside player. Obviously, maybe put on a few kegs over the next few off seasons, but he's got that pace to burn players and obviously the skills to just punish. So it's very exciting, and it's one of these games I think that he can really hold his head high over.
Oh, for sure.
But all right, mate. Let's go on to honourable mentions, of which we've called out Beef, Angus Sheldrick, and Parker, Beefy, and Luke Parker and Juzzy McInerney. So kick us off with Beef there, mate.
Well, Beef, following up from a good couple of weeks prior, so he did well obviously against Brisbane, and then got the Rising Star nomination last week against the Eagles.
Yep.
So he's backing that up. So he's back-to-back good games from Gus, Beef, Sheldrick, and, he's working a lot in the guts now. So we're putting him at centre bounces and also out on the wing at times. And he had 21 disposals. So 15 of those were uncontested, which is sort of surprising, isn't it, when we look at his game style, his body shape. He's more of a contested player, but the fact that 15 of his 21 disposals, so that's around 3/4 of his disposals. Does that make sense?
Yep.
My maths is really bad.
No, I think that's almost perfect, mate.
He is actually getting outside as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are a fair few ground ball gets there. I saw him take some good marks as well, so he's actually quite strong overhead for his size. He had 8 score involvement, so he was having some scoreboard impact as well, and 264 metres gained. So, he's actually got some legs on him. He's not just a stodgy sort of, contested player like some players are who are just, all about clearances. He's actually got some legs. He's not quick, but he can cover ground, and he's got a good leg as well. His kick is quality. His nice left peg, and we saw that he can kick on his right as well. 6 tackles, so defensively working hard. 6 clearances, and 20 pressure acts. So, really one of those players that we like to see at the Swans, those bloods players that have a two-way sort of game, both defensively and offensively.
Yeah, and I think your point that he's sort of showing that he's got a bit more to his game than what you would think if you just look at his sort of specs and maybe his background to the club. But yeah, he's got a beautiful kick, hasn't he? Like he's that little chip to Logan as well. Like when he probably had about 5 options to pick out. And I think Rampy went over and congratulated him on that one. But he's sort of really adding some strings to his bow, and it's really pleasing to see because he's obviously he can go in there and really match it because he's sort of a little bit short, but he's very strong. He's almost got a mature body in terms of the kilograms he's got. So. But the fact he's got that run and that ability to use both feet is just really. It's really kind of nice, and it's pleasing to see that he's putting it together.
Oh, definitely.
So
he's a solid unit, isn't he? I mean, Beef is such a perfect nickname for him. Like, it's good sort of in terms of the play on words and the play on the reference to Angus Beef, but actually physically he's quite beefy. So
yeah. It works well. Chris
well.
Chris nailed it on this one.
He did.
So might just say the food connection there. If you recall, my proposal for Braden's nickname was Soup, which is in the food category, but a little too metaphorical, I think. It was a little too deep. So
a little too left of centre.
And we're happy with the left peg, the cannon now, so that's all good. Yeah, but Beef is a cracker, so well done.
It was 86 kegs. Yeah. He's 178 centimetres, so proportionally, pound for pound, he's pretty strong.
Yeah, he's a couple of pre-seasons behind the young players already. I think Rowy's about 86 kilo at the moment, maybe even marginally. No, Heaney's 86 kilos.
86,
no,
yeah.
Yeah, so he's got that maturity of strength or body size, and he's just going to put it together with game experience. So
For sure.
certainly the future is bright. So well done, Beef. All right, another beefcake, if I may add, Luke Parker. What do you think of his game, mate?
Yeah, I think it was another quality captain's performance from Parker. He did score that lovely goal in I think it was the third quarter, that snap. I think it might have been not sure if it was our only goal of the quarter.
Yeah, I think it was 1-3. We had two quarters of 1-3.
Yeah. So, he popped up when we needed him. He had 27 disposals, which was the third highest for the game. Interestingly, he only had 8 contested possessions. So I think last week or the week before, was it last week, he had a very high contested possession number, which is a bit more in line with his normal game, because he's that sort of crash and bash player. But I guess this sort of tied into the fact that we actually did overall have a lot of uncontested possessions in that first half because of the style that we're playing. And we were trying to get that overlap and that sort of loose man to switch the ball. And he was involved in that. And he's actually, he's skillful as a player. He's not just the typical sort of contested midfielder that might not be that polished. He's actually a very polished player. His disposal efficiency was up again around 74%. But then again, he's doing all the defensive stuff with his 21 pressure acts, which was 4th, I think, for the game, and 4 tackles. He had 4 clearances as well. So maybe a little bit of a different game from Parker in that, he was getting a little bit more uncontested ball, but he is one of those players that I think moving forward too, we can start to put him in the forward line a bit more as we have these younger mids coming through, and he can have an impact up forward because he can kick a goal. He's pretty accurate at the set shot. He can kick a snap. He's good overhead. So, he's just so important for us in terms of the spiritual leadership as well, and leading by example.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add to that, mate. That's a perfect summary. All right, mate. Juzzy is the other honourable mention for the week.
Yeah, I like Juzzy's game, and he particularly in that first quarter, I think he had 10 disposals in that first quarter, and he had a lot of inside 50s, and he potentially could have had 3 or 4 goal assists in that first quarter if we'd kicked straight. So he had 6 inside 50s for the match, 7 score involvements, and he had the 22 disposals at 68%. And I think he was playing a bit more forward because we had Goulden and Campbell on the wings, but he would have been rotating onto the wings as well. And when he's at his best, he's working 2 ways, and he's working forward, but he's also doing a lot of his work back as well. So I don't know, with his heat map might give us a bit of a better idea of. So he had like 59% of his possessions in offensive half. So that's probably a bit more than he would normally have. So he was working forward a bit more, probably on that half forward flank. But we're happy that he's sort of getting his form back because he became a little bit of a whipping boy, I think, for some, and he did have that week that he was dropped for, and he came back, I think, the week after, and has been pretty good ever since.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And it's. I guess we kind of were hoping that he would get back to that level, and I think he's pretty much there. And because when he's playing like he's playing, he's a lock. I think he's he's got that wing role, but he can go forward as we're starting to see. But he's a very good two-way runner as well. And for me, he's a clear 22 player, so long as he's bringing the game that he's bringing, and he is. So and plus he is a bit of a barometer as well. I think for us, like he gets the boys up and about. He's a fun young lad, and you want him to be doing well because I think when he's doing well, much like Papley, I think the Bloods are doing well. So. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, definitely. He's a bit of an X factor player, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's a bit of a hyper player, and he can just do things that not everyone can do. He's a smooth mover. He's good to watch.
Yeah, definitely, mate. All right. Well, I think that takes us through the game review. So let's take stock of all of that, and we'll look at the post-game standing, the ladder implications. So obviously we're still coming 13th because a few things didn't go our way when they really could have.
Yeah.
But we're still on 6 wins, 8 losses, and the 1 draw, which I think I started the podcast with this, but I think I heard it was the first draw ever between South/Sydney and Geelong. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, okay. I did hear that as well.
I'm glad I'm checking now that we're 50 minutes into the podcast, having led with that. But anyway, so our percentage dropped a little bit. We're on 112.7 now. Obviously, it's all mathematical from here. The road home in fixture order is Richmond, so Tigers, Dogs, Dockers, Bombers, Giants, Suns, Crows, and then we finish off with the Ds. We've got 3 more home games, so that's the Dogs who are 6th currently, the Suns who are 12th currently, Melbourne 4th currently, and then 5 away. Richmond this Thursday, and we'll get onto that in a moment, who are 15th, Fremantle who are 11th, Essendon who are 8th, GWS who are 10th, and Adelaide who are 7th. So... I mean, really, going off historical numbers, we need to win at least 7 from these 8 games to have any chance of making finals, and that's not taking into consideration any other team's fate or future. Right. So it's really out of our control unless we just win everything.
That's right, and the draw sort of throws everything up a little bit because all it does is it really just takes that percentage out of the equation. So it's pretty much, it just means that those teams that we're on equal wins with, we're always going to be ahead of them because we've got the extra 2 points. So our sort of percentage gets taken out of the equation. But the percentage will become a factor if we end up on equal points with the other teams that have had a draw. For example, Richmond, who we're playing this week. So
and Carlton was the other one?
Carlton and Richmond have they just been the 2 draws so far this year?
I think so. Yeah. Let's have a look at that.
Yes.
Yep. As you were.
So we're all on the same amount of points. We're all on 26, except for Geelong. Obviously, they're on 20. They're on 30, but we're on the same amount of points as Richmond and Carlton, who are the other teams. And I don't know if Carlton are a real show for the 8, nor Richmond, so it doesn't really help us too much because I don't think... I mean, they could make the 8, but they're more of an outside chance than us even, really.
I mean, them making the 8 is if we don't take control of our road home, I think. Right. So, yeah, I mean, that would be gutting. But, I think that's a fair enough call currently. But it's looking very tricky. I mean, it was already looking tricky. Obviously, it was weird because we kind of really needed to win against the Cats, but because we were coming up against such a psychological hurdle, it was tricky to say we need the win. We're like we probably would have been stoked with a draw before the game, given the recent history, but. Because it is that draw and it does throw things out slightly, like you said. I don't know. What do you? Yeah, not asking for a prediction or tips or anything, but it's going to be tricky, right?
I think it is going to be tricky because we probably need around 12 to 13 wins. There's an extra round this season, so I don't know what that means in terms of what's going to make it for that 8th position. But what I really think is most important for us in these last matches is really just building a bit of momentum. And if that momentum is good enough for us to make the 8, then so be it. That's fantastic. And we might be able to do some damage if we do make the 8 because of our finals experience. And if we do make the 8, surely we'd be playing some pretty good footy because we would have won pretty much all of our matches or most of them. But I think more important for us in our development and for next season is to finish the season strongly and to build some momentum. So just to be playing that Bloods footy again. And I feel like we've kind of turned the corner in the last few weeks. I think the Brisbane match was a bit of a turning point, and then obviously a bit hard to read too much into the Eagles match, but we played some great footy. And in the first half, And I think it was pretty much a 4-quarter effort against Geelong, but obviously, particularly in the first half, we played some brilliant football. So I think we have turned a bit of a corner form-wise. I just hope that we can capitalise on that and keep that momentum going and start to get some wins against quality opposition, because we still haven't really beaten anyone of note or anyone who's in the 8, I think. Yeah.
So in the current the teams that are currently in the 8, we've got Melbourne, Dogs, Crows, and Essendon. So that's a healthy test. 8 games, half of them are teams against the 8.
Yeah.
Teams that are in the 8. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you're right. If we can 6 to 7 wins, it's going to be. I mean, I'm saying as I'm saying this, I'm hearing it going if and if and if and if. Like there's a lot of there's a sense of sort of helplessness of this season, I think. As you're saying, it's frustrating, emotionally frustrating if you're a Swans fan, but the fact that it's going to be interesting to review this season once it's over, I think, because
for sure
it's going to I think in hindsight it's going to look like one of those seasons where anyway, I won't speak too soon. We'll do the proper one once it's done. But anyway,
it's been a bizarre season, to be honest.
Yes,
it's been bizarre. Like there have been some statistical anomalies, I think, in our matches as well. Like some matches that we don't understand how we haven't won, or in this case, drew. Yeah. But some of the other matches were just like, how can you dominate that much and still lose?
Yeah. It's so with all that, and obviously the further the rest of the season to go. Obviously, we've got the Tigers before that this Thursday night at the MCG, which is going to be another week of do or die footy. And obviously, as you've mentioned, the Tigers they're on 15, 6 wins, 8 losses, and 1 draw, same as us, but lower based on their percentage, 95.6. Over the past 5 matches, they've had 3 wins. So they won by 4 against the Giants, 15 over Freo, and 20 over the Saints. And they've lost to the Port Adelaide Power by 10, and then got thumped by Brisbane most recently. So, and I was asking you offline before we started recording, when did McQualter? There's a Q in there. It's not a W. It's a Q. McQualter. Who?
Weird name.
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird name. I can safely say I've never heard that surname
nice Scottish name, I guess.
Oh well, I would love to see his tartan. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't yellow and black. But so look, Richmond are. I think they're obviously in a do or die situation themselves. And they're at their home deck. And look, how did we pull up? What were our injuries after the Cats game? None listed, right?
I don't think any injuries listed. We didn't even play our sub. That's an interesting side note that we haven't really discussed is, we had less interchanges than the Cats. I think we only had like 67 for the match, and we decided not to use Clark, who was our sub. And like obviously that meant that we didn't have any injuries, which was good. But from a tactical perspective, we didn't activate it. And I think, ideally you would sort of at some point, because you just want fresh legs, but we didn't end up doing that. But positively, we didn't have any injuries, even though Blakey did look like a bit roughed up at times. Yeah.
I guess Clark has been playing that. Well, I mean, he could at a pinch play defensively. He's obviously a good runner, but he's definitely been playing more of that sort of forward tagger, or tagger in the forward line rather. But look, I don't know. I think if McCartan has had another solid week in the VFL, as has Buller, Stevens, Warner, Rankin, Gould, and Magor. They've all been contributing. So I think of those, realistically, probably it's only Tommy McCartan to come back in. But the question is, who for? So it's probably Francis or Melican or Fox if they... I don't know why Fox gets dropped. I really don't.
That's a bit baffling. I have maybe a bit of a theory that the reason why he's getting moved around a bit and was dropped, it wasn't so much on form. It was just due to concern around matchups in D50, and the fact that he's sort of that interesting in-between size. I think he's 185 centimetres. and therefore he's not. He can play on smalls and talls, but if he is playing on talls, he's always undersized. And I think Horse is wanting us to have the two tall keys in our structure, and then you've got Blake, who's also tall, but he's more of a kind of intercept and rebound defender who can also play tall at times if required. So he's got that flexibility. But I think that's maybe what has led to Fox being moved around a bit and then being moved forward this week against the Cats, and also I think he played forward a bit last week as well, right? So what do we think of that? Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting discussion point, whether that forward, Fox forward, whether we like that or whether we want him to go back into defence.
I mean, look, I think he is one of these players that can play on any line. Sure, he had that last kick and he'd want it back but I mean, it's not why we lost the game, obviously. No. But I think he's too good to not have in the team. I really do. And but I've always I was hoping he might pick up that slack on the right wing. But Juzzy, as we've touched on, has sort of bounced back and that pleasingly. But I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Cunningham is a much maligned player, obviously, for all the wrong reasons. But he obviously, everyone sort of seemed to have taken their foot off the pedal with that.
We did a good job, didn't he? He played on Stengel, I think.
Stengel, yeah, and same sort of effect that he had on Charlie, Cameron the week before, or a couple of weeks before. So, is he? I mean, he's kind of that sort of. I feel like if Cunningham is playing well, then Fox is sort of squeezed out of the back line. Yeah, especially if you've got Tommy coming back in. Although it's Francis or Melican, so it's probably cleaner. But and then the other player is Buddy. Is Buddy's knee good to go? Is he going to come in? Are they going to rest one of the youngs? He's a big time player, obviously, and
last game of the G potentially.
Yeah, right. So hopefully not. Hopefully we somehow pull a miracle out of our asses and make the finals. But yeah, so I think that's probably the. And the other thing is Wicks. I think he's finished his term.
Yes.
So
that's right.
Could he take the 23rd as that tactical? Pressure player to come on over the likes of Clark or Fox if they go that way. But I don't know. I mean, when we look at the Tigers, obviously, I think they're big out last week. I mean, they got pumped by the Lions up there, I believe, up at the Gabba.
At the Gabatoir.
At the Gabatoir. But Dusty was an out with illness. Prestia's injured every other week.
Yeah.
Maurice Rioli was omitted, but
I think Prestia and Dusty are back.
They are, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're amazing players and have been for a long time. So you're looking at Taranto, who's having like a Brownlow type season. I guess they're a bit light on in the forward line. Rewald isn't really firing, and Lynch has been out for a while, but. They've got weapons all over the ground. Cochin's playing well, Bolton's well. Our Nankervis that we let go. Our Hopper's back in. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be an easy game.
Not at all, especially at the MCG.
Yeah,
and I think they're going to have a bit of revenge on their minds as well because of the last, I think, 3 games in a row we've beaten them. Might even be 4, and we've actually knocked them off at their home deck in 2021.
Yep.
So I think this is the first time we're playing them back at the MCG since that match. Not that, maybe we read too much into those sort of things, past matches, but I think they will be keen to get one back over us. They always, I mean, not always, but often they seem to be close matches, don't they? Even when we were struggling, we had a really close match with them in that sort of horrible game. Where it was super wet and Dimmer blamed us for ruining football, for destroying football. Yeah.
What did Horse say? Just worry about your own team, mate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Don't worry about the weather. Just worry about your own team. Yeah. So look, it's going to be, and the other thing is just purely for the fact they just got smashed, right? Teams like to bounce back quick. I mean, look at the Eagles. They almost beat the Saints.
That's right.
Right? We almost got a hand up there by the Eagles beating the Saints. So, given that and some of these key ins coming back in, it's going to be very tough. So obviously a pass mark is a win, but like, what do we want to see? What's the kind of game we want to see after the Cats, agonising draw?
Yeah. Well, it'll be just interesting to see what game style will bring, because I think in the past we did also use that sort of kicking game, that one that we beat them at the MCG. We really focused on cutting through them with short passes, with short kicks.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if we employ something similar, or maybe sort of mix it up a bit, and that might be part of it, depending on what the tempo we require is. But I'd say we're just kind of trying to, almost halve or win the contested possession, stay pretty much even or win the clearances, and then just sort of use that run and carry and our superior foot skills and obviously our pressure. I think that's always the foundation, isn't it? It's really starting with that Bloods footy, which is all about intense pressure, and I think that was really strong against Geelong again, and it's been, I think, strong in the last few weeks. Our pressure game's right back up there again, and our attacking flow really follows on from that. So I think if we can bring our pressure, if we can halve the contested possession and clearances, and we can get that transition either through run and carry and handball receives, or through those beautiful kicking skills that we possess, then I think we'll give ourselves enough opportunity to score. It's just then finishing off the job.
So kick straight.
Kick straight. I think,
kick straight.
That needs to be one of the new fundamentals, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that we have to say that, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
But they're still humans, and
it's just crazy that kicking for goal seems to be deteriorating. When all the other skills are getting better
and better. Yeah. So it's mental. It's always mental.
It has to be, or maybe it's just that you also have a lot of non-forwards taking shots at goal now because of the way that forwards are sort of triple teamed and all that sort of stuff. So you often find other players getting marks inside 50 and having shots at goal who aren't sort of dedicated to that particular task. So, but even our forwards are struggling like Heaney. So I don't know if that really holds water.
Well, I like it because it sounded educated and what's the word? Emotional, as in like a fan-based logic.
Yes.
All right, mate. Well, that actually brings us to the end. I mean, we've got one last thing. Do you have anything to add here, mate, before we do the outro?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm looking forward to. I won't be able to get to the game, but I will be watching. It's a Thursday night game. I think the fact that we're playing off another 6-day break, so I think that's 2 6-day breaks in a row, which might have been one of the reasons why they didn't want to bring back Tom yet, because he was going to have to back up again, and he hasn't, played a lot of minutes yet. So I'm fully expecting him to play, and maybe the Buddy thing, that's the interesting watch for the week. But yeah, it's always exciting to play at the MCG, and hopefully we can put in a great performance and show that we actually do play the ground well, which I think we do when we're on song.
I think we do, yeah, for the reasons you've touched on with the kicking on. I love watching games, obviously at live at the MCG. There's nothing quite like it, but it's also just a really nice viewing experience, like on broadcast. So the angle of the cameras is just where it needs to be.
Exactly.
And I've always complained about this about the SCG. It's just the cameras sit far too low. You lose the ball in the crowd, especially day games, right? The red ball and the red jerseys, right?
Yes.
But it's really quite nice watching, a Thursday or Friday night game of footy on TV from Sydney at the MCG. It's obviously more stressful when the Swans play, but that's okay. We embrace it because we love them, and
we do.
Yeah, we do. It's a love win-win thing. Even when we crack the shits and totally stressed out, but that's okay. It's all part of it.
It's worth it, I guess. It's just one of those passions. You can't shake it. It's part of you. It's sort of part of your essence, really. So
I love that.
Even though it kind of kills you at times, it's something that you'll just carry with you. It's sort of, just part of living and enjoying life, I think.
There you go. So one last thing ended up being quite philosophical, and I'm very happy with that because that's rounded it out lovely. So, mate, thank you for joining tonight. I know you're busy with the family, and we really do appreciate it. Yeah, but let's keep in touch, and hopefully we can have you on the potty again before the end of the year.
Thanks, Noddy. Looking forward to it.
Cheers,
Up
mate.
the Bloods.
Up the Bloods. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. So on behalf of Bob, thank you very much to everyone for listening in, and make sure to follow us wherever you get your Swannies news. Make sure to watch the game this Thursday night, and wherever you're sitting, scream your heads off and cheer on our Swannies. Until then, up the Bloods.
Up the Bloods.
And can you
Swannies.
Come on, boys.